Shalom Lakam, Shalom Lakam. I am Zaquan Chapat, Elder Judge Parazah with the Yashomasi Diaspora Gates, House of Israel, Calendar, and Accountability. These different offices work together under myself and with myself and Zaquan Chapat Nathaniah for Mashra Yasha Allah and other elders and officers that are in different administrative roles of these offices and departments to work together to bring information and service to the nation of Yasha Allah as a whole. So what I have in my hand right now is some information regarding the new moons, right? The new moons and the information that we need to establish when the month starts and to establish the calendar. And of course, this information has been around for decades, literally centuries, based on complex mathematical formulas and complex calculations that can allow us to accurately arrive at dates and times when these different astronomical or celestial events will be happening. All right, so first I want to explain to you the concept of a time zone. Why am I talking about a time zone? Because I'm in Turkey right now, so welcome to Turkey. All right, Shema Yasharallah, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh our power, Yahweh is one. Yabarakakam Yahweh Bashem Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. Yahweh bless you all in the name of Yahweh Shai Hamashiach. Welcome to Turkey. So in Turkey, we're in a different time zone than most of you all are in America. We're in different time zones. Jerusalem is in a different time zone. And then India is in a different time zone. Now we have brothers, Israelites, that we are in communication with in different areas around the earth. All right, from India all the way going west to Tijuana, San Diego, Los Angeles. You know, we're in communication with a lot of different brothers. So sometimes we have events that happen in the heavens in Hashemayim that happen at different times on the Gentile calendar. All right, so that's why I want to explain to you a little bit about the time zones. Okay, now the earth, the relationship between the earth and the sun is such that it takes about every hour, okay, about every hour there's a change of about 15 degrees, all right, between the earth and the sun. So the earth and the sun are moving opposite to each other about 15 degrees every hour, all right? So let's do some quick math, okay? So let's do 24, because we have 24 time zones, times 15 degrees. Okay, we know 10 times 24 is going to be 240, and then 24 times 12 is going to be half of that, which is going to be 120. So when we add these two together, we get 360 degrees, all right? So that shows us how the Most High knew about it, because it gives us a complete circle. It gives us 360 degrees, all right? So now the earth is divided into 24 time zones, okay? And each time zone occupies occupies 15 degrees. 15 degrees, okay? So we won't make any comparisons to that right now with this in the circle of stars, even though there is a comparison and a relationship between the two. We won't go into that. So that's why when it's about, let's say when it's 7 p.m. here in Turkey, it's gonna be, when it's daylight savings time, it's gonna be 12 noon. Okay, it's gonna be 12 noon in New York. So it's a 7-hour difference. So that 7-hour difference lets you know all right, that 15 times 7 lets you know that those two places are 105 degrees away from each other, because each 15 degrees is a different time zone, and each time zone is a different hour. Okay, so I want to explain that, because when we're dealing with sunsets and we're dealing with constellation occurrences, okay, if it's sunset, let's say, and then let's say we have we're going to transition right into the sunsets. Okay, we're going to transition right into the sunsets. So let's say you have the new moon happens. Let's say the new moon happens, let's say on the 12th, okay? This is clear on here, right? On the 12th, use your head. On the 12th of a month, can you see this? Okay, on the 12th of a month, okay? You see that? Let's say there's a new moon on the 12th of a month. Now let's say that, remember there's 7 hours difference between here and New York. So let's say that here for me, let's say that new moon event happens at 10 p.m. on the 12th, okay? So now, if something happens at 10 p.m. on the 12th, when did that day start? At sunset of the 12th. So I would have to observe that new moon from the 12th at sunset. Why? Because on the 12th, when the sun goes down, it's going to be dark. So when 10 o'clock comes around, and then you have the new moon of the sun and the moon lining up in front of each other at 10 p.m., my day started on the 12th. Now, let's say that we have that same event, new moon event, okay, happening on, let's say it happens on the 12th, and it happens at 10 p.m. in Turkey. Well, once you get into New York, it's going to be 7 hours back. So in New York, it's going to be 3 p.m. All right, let's say Queens, my original hometown. So at 3 p.m. in Queens, on the 12th, is when we're going to have this new moon occur. All right? Now we're going to have this new moon occur. All right? Now, if it's 3 p.m. in Queens on the 12th, all right, on the 12th of a month, so at 3 p.m. on the 12th of a month, on that particular day, called the 12th on the Gentile calendar, when did that day start? That day actually started prior to the 12th, when? On the 11th, at sunset. It started on the 11th at sunset. All right? So now we would have to begin to observe it at from the 11th in Queens. Why? Because when 3 p.m. comes around, we have to be keeping that whole day as a holy day. We have to keep the whole day as a holy day. So when it's 10 o'clock here in Turkey, when the sun goes down in Turkey, guess what? We have to already be keeping it as a holy day. So we're keeping it as a holy day together because we're going to have some hours that are going to overlap. So when sunset happens here in Turkey, let's say the sun's going to go down about, let's say it goes down about 8 p.m. Okay, at 8 p.m. So at 8 p.m., I'm going to start to observe it from the night of the 12th, right? But the people over in Queens, they have been observing it since the previous night. Let's say it gets dark at 8 o'clock over there. So they've been observing it for 12 more hours than I've been observing it, per se, right? You know, relatively speaking, right? Because when it's going to be 12 o'clock in Queens, when they start to observe that day on the 11th, okay, 7 hours ahead of time is going to be what? 2 a.m. on the 12th. So I haven't started to observe it yet, right? 2 a.m. No, it's 8 p.m. It's going to be about what forget this 8 o'clock. They start to observe on the 11th. So 7 hours ahead is going to be 3 a.m. on the 12th. So I haven't started to observe it yet. All right. So I hope I'm not confusing you. And what I did, I made a kind of a note chart in my notebook. All right. So what this does is it shows me what time we have sunset occurring in all of the different areas. So we can just get a maybe get a close up of this a little bit. All right. Here we have for Jerusalem. Okay. So here we have for Jerusalem. And we have the local time that the new moon occurs right now. It occurs on the 28th, all right? And the date for today, if I'm not mistaken, is the 27th. So at 5 a.m., okay, in about 8 hours, the new moon event is gonna happen, all right, on this day. So now it happens at 5 a.m. Well, sunset for that day is going to be at 18:15. All right, let's say October 28th. Now that 18:15 going into Jerusalem. Okay, it's going to be 18:15. Not here in Turkey, but in Jerusalem at 18:15. So our sunset is going to be a little bit after Jerusalem sunset. All right. So that day is going to actually be observed from the 27th to the 28th. Now, inside the constellations, the moon will be at the 8th constellation, and it'll be at 4 degrees and 25 minutes. 4 degrees and 25 minutes within the circle of stars. Each group of stars is a constellation, all right? And that's why the constellation means with stars or a group of stars. Solomon calls it a circle of stars in Wisdom of Solomon chapter 13. So here it is for Jerusalem. Now, here it is for New York. So notice that because it happens at 18:15, the sunset, and the event happens on the 18th, on the 28th at 05:38 hours, all right, on October 28th. That means that from that previous sunset, which is the 27th, you have to observe that as a holy day. That's in Jerusalem. Now, way across the ocean in New York City, the event that happens at 5:38 a.m. on the 28th in Jerusalem is going to happen at 23 or 11:38 at night from October 27th. So sunset in New York is going to be 19:30. So since the sunset is 19, I need you to hold that a little more still, man. You might just need to put 2 hands on it instead of using 1 hand to support the other hand. So 19:30, all right, is when the sunset happens. So when 11 o'clock comes on, 11:38, you've already been observing this as a holy day. So you're keeping that whole day holy, so 27th. So as you can see, what I have is our day, 27th to the 28th, so on and so forth, for all of the months going into 2021 in March. So now as you see, Jerusalem 27, all right, New York 27. If you count down, let's say 27, 25, 25, 27, 25, 25, 23, 22, 23. Then you have 24. See that? 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth one down, which is going to be the 11th month of the year, we are going to be observing it from approximately the 24th to the 25th. However, once you get into New York, New York is going to be observing it from the 23rd to the 24th. Why? Because of how the time zones are set up. When a new moon comes in, it may not be dark in some place, or it may be slightly before sunset. If it's slightly before sunset, you have to observe it from that previous day. If it's way, okay, after sunset, all right, you still have to observe it from the previous day. Now, where the change comes in that is whether it's going to be within the date of the same calendar day. All right. Now, we have for Jerusalem, we have for New York, and since we have brothers in California, West Coast and Tijuana, we have for San Diego, and then we have the moon phase for Abaya, Nigeria. We have the brothers out there, the elder Koshashimiya Cletus out there in Nigeria. And then also we have the brothers Santani and Premnath and Prakash over in India. So we have the time for Hubali, that these events happen over in India. You see that? So sometimes the global observation of the Chaadash is going to be on the calendar date. Sometimes it's going to be on a different calendar date. So as we see, everybody across the globe is going to be in a situation, a solar geo situation, to where the sunset of the 27th, which is now for us, and in a few hours for you all that are in California and in New York, you have to observe it from the 27th to the 28th. That is going to be the global 8th new moon. Now, let me just run through the example real quick, because I know you might have been a little confused when I was talking about the difference between Jerusalem and New York. So I'll show you exactly, what I'm talking about real quick. All right. So here we see that for the 11th month, all right, it's going to be the 24th of January. All right. Now this is for Jerusalem, and it's going to happen at 23:42. All right. That's what time is going to be in Jerusalem when I say new moon, I'm talking about the biblical new moon from Genesis chapter 1. All right. That's what I'm talking about. All right. The black moon from Genesis chapter 1, because the darkness begins the time when we look in the Bible. I'm not talking about the book of Enoch. The book of Enoch is off, or people's interpretation of the book of Enoch is off when they try to say, oh, you begin the new moon when the moon has a crescent on the right side. Okay, well, why not begin it when it has a crescent on the left side? You see that? Anyway, so now let's look at, this is for Jerusalem. Okay, now, well, let's go to New York. Now, that same event happens in New York is going to be the 24th of January, okay, but it's going to be 1642 in New York. All right, and that's going to be, now, if you look at the sunset for that particular day, now this was very close. All right, sunset on that day is going to it's going to be at 1838. Now, we don't even have to write down the sunset for Jerusalem, because any place in the world, unless you go up to the northern lights in the Arctic region, it's going to be dark at 11 o'clock at night, right? It's going to be dark. So we know that from this, if the new moon, now let's see what time the new moon occurs right here. All right, that's what time it's going to occur. okay? 23:42 on the 24th in Jerusalem. But now remember, it's going to happen at 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. This is a 7-hour difference. Why? Because remember, we already discussed the fact of how there's 105 degrees of what? Of lines of longitude of separation between New York and Jerusalem. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Each one of these is 15 degrees. So you have 15, 15, 15, 15, 15, 15, and what else? You guessed it, 15. So that's how far. So if you were 105 degrees away, that's almost like a third of the planet away. So when the sun is when it's going to be dark over here at Jerusalem, you're still going to have a little bit of sunlight over here in New York City. But it's going to be dark over here at 11:42 when the event occurs. So now, I hope you understand that, all right? Because what I'm trying to show you is this. A lot of brothers will read the scripture from the Bible, and they'll say, well, yeah, this is when the new moon starts. It starts when the crescent moon, or it starts, but they don't understand the process of what's happening between the sun, between the stars, the constellations, the sun, the moon, and the earth, and time. They can't explain how all of these things are interacting with each other to give you the information of when the new moon is. And I'm not knocking brothers, but brothers present themselves sometimes as experts when they're experts at perhaps reading information, but maybe not experts in understanding and knowing the process behind why and how. And that's the difference between us at the Masharah Yasha Allah Office of Calendar. We understand the process behind why. And that's why the Most High put us in a position to humbly be able to serve the people of Yasha Allah. Because we have the informational and the academic background spiritually from the Torah, first and foremost, to explain and show these things. Everything we're talking about, we can see in Genesis. So anyway, on January 24th, all right, this is 2020, at 23:42 p.m., there will be the new moon event happens. Now, my question to you would be, if the event happens at 11 o'clock, midnight, what time is it now? It's going on 10 o'clock now. When did this day start? This day started previous sunset. 11 o'clock at night on so-called Friday. When did the Sabbath start? That previous sunset. So this day right here actually starts on the 24th. So that shows us what? That from the 24th, from the 24th to the 25th is going to be what? The new moon. You can say the Yom Chaadash, or the Ra'ash, or Ra'ash Chaadash, the head of the month, okay? The head of the month. So in all of these different names, what is this? It's the first day of the month. 24th at sunset to the 25th at sunset is the first day of the month. All right, let's understand that. I explained that to you. So now let's go into New York, all right? And the reason I'm showing Jerusalem and New York is because I live in this part of the world. I'm in the Jerusalem time zone, which I think the technical name for is like Eastern Europe time zone. But I'm in the Jerusalem time zone right now. So in the Jerusalem time zone, you know, we're, like I said, 105 degrees on the map globe away from New York. So now in New York, that the new moon is going to happen at 1642, which is 4:42 p.m. Now the sunset is not going to happen until approximately 1 hour and 56 minutes later. All right, which is going to be at 18:38 or 6:38 p.m. So if the event happens at 16:42, the sun doesn't go down until after the new moon event happens. Which means what? Which means that this entire day, which includes, this is sunset of the 24th. So the new moon occurs in the day that began on the 23rd. So that means that we have to do from the 23rd to the 24th. It's going to be a what? A holy day, all right? It's going to be a holy day, all right? So that's why we're going to have maybe different dates, but at some point our observances, will overlap, all right? Our observances will overlap because when they start to observe it from the 23rd at sunset, let's say sunset in New York is going to be 18, the days are getting longer now, so let's say it's going to be at 1836, all right? So now, what's 18 plus 7? 18 plus 7 is going to be 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and then from 23 you go to midnight, 1 a.m. So it's going to be 1 a.m., where we are over here. It's going to be 1 a.m. on the 24th, okay, when the sunset happens, all right, 1 a.m. on the 24th. Now, when that comes 1 a.m. on the 24th, when that comes in, that day has kind of just started for us, all right? So that sunset of that day, so they start to observe it, but it happens for us at 23:42 on the 24th, ahead, into the future. So we observe it from the 24th to the 25th. All right, so from the 23rd at sunset, they start to observe it. But the event doesn't happen until hours later. All right, so we're not really on the same scheduling as far as exactly at the same moment in time observing it, but we're exactly in the same moment in time. It occurs at the exact same moment in time and space. Right now, if I clap my hands right now, it's 7 hours back in New York. I did the same thing, all right, in New York, but 7 hours back. You have to really understand how the time zones work, and I explained it with the 15 degrees with the 24 time zones. That gives us a full 360 degrees, all right? So that's why we're gonna have two different occurrences, but we're gonna be observing it on two different dates. Now sometimes the dates, they interact. They kind of coincide. All right. So hope this is helpful. So for all of us in India, Jerusalem, Turkey, England, Nigeria, Kenya, Brazil, Puerto Rico, Mexico, all of America, we observed it together from the 27th at sunset, okay, to the 28th at sunset as the first day of the new year. I'm sorry, not of the new year, but the first day of the 8th month. Now you're gonna have brothers, some brothers are popular on Facebook, some brothers are very vocal and kind of outspoken on social media, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everything that they're doing and the deductions that they are able to present are accurate, Right now, I challenge anyone to show your process. If the process that we're using is wrong, give all the information, all of the comparisons, all of the notes that we've presented right now pertaining to the new moon. And you find out that a lot of brothers have a passion for talking on camera and for making posts and for confrontation, but they don't have a passion for sitting quietly and researching and studying and comparing things to make sure that what they present is accurate in the eyes of the Most High, and from an academic viewpoint and from a spiritual viewpoint, and lining up with Genesis, as far as how the Most High says that time is supposed to be measured and counted and initiated. All right, so once again, I'm your brother, your friend, your elder, your judge, Zaquan Shapat Parazah, Elder Judge Parazah, with Banya Yasharala, Mashara Yasharala, and I'm coming to you right now representing the Office of Calendar under the direction and guidance and administration of Zaquan Shapat Nathaniela, who was sitting right here beside me a while ago, but he departed out of this room, and he hasn't come back in yet. I was hoping maybe we can get some interaction or get some statements from him pertaining to the calendar or anything like that, but we'll come back and do another presentation, dealing with the calendar and dealing with the dates for the calendar. So just real quick, and please hold the camera, kind of steady. Let's see if you can get it from there. Can I get it from there? So for Jerusalem, the Yawam or the Yom is going to be from the 27th to the 28th, the first day of the month. New York, 27th to the 28th, the first day of the month. Okay. San Diego, 27th to the 28th, the first day of the month. Abia, Nigeria, 27th to the 28th, first day of the month. And Hubballi, India, 27th, 28th to the 29th. 27th to 28th to the 29th is going to be when they are going to observe it. Right, so I have to touch base with the brothers and sisters again to let them know, because here, this one event happens on the 28th, all right, at 2300, at 2356, it has been in. So anyway, we'll get back with the brothers and sisters in India about when it happens over where they are. So remember, India doesn't observe daylight savings time, so you're gonna have differences in the time zones greater. So it's become like 9-10 hour differences. So sometimes the year might be 11, sometimes 10, but they don't observe daylight savings time. All right. So we'll, get with the brothers and sisters in India to get direct, clear information to them about their observation of the dates and everything. All right, so it looks like we are in the clear. If 5 should be 7. Yeah, that's correct. So it's still 27th to the 28th is a manual typo, if you will. So we got the right information to them, made the calculation, but wrong thing was written down, perhaps. So anyway, Mashra Yashala, Office of Torah, Department of Torah. We're dealing with the calendar, Office of Calendar, Department of Calendar. Now, we have a government. You all have to get off your own agenda, your own camp. Some of y'all brothers ain't been in the truth for 10 years yet, and you're an expert in everything. You gotta humble yourself, man, and learn. The methodology that we're using is the ones that was passed down to us from our elders. And those elders weren't perfect in all knowledge, but they gave us an excellent framework and outline of how to do different things. So the same framework that they gave us is the same framework that's being used. So we haven't invented anything new. So we have our process that we go through, and it just gets refined over the years. So we have to respect the government that's been put in place. Even those of you that are a part of the government of Mashiach Yahshua, some of you have doctrine differences on how to figure out the new moon, where you don't respect the dates that your own officers in Mashiach Yahshua, your own elders that are your peers, come up with for you to observe. You have officers in Mashiach Yahshua at different camps that don't respect the dates of the calendar that are coming out. So you have a government, roll with what the government is saying, because now I shows you the technical aspects that we have to go through to make these dates. We're not just going to a website and saying, okay, what date is the new moon? Okay, that's what the date is that we're gonna use. We have a process that we go through, and then we have checks and balances to where we look at it and review it and research it, all right? Again, you know, so like the information right here is being checked like twice or 3 times. But the information that we have right here, that wasn't checked yet. So we have to go back, and that information is gonna have to be, checked again. Okay, so that's what actually, tráigame el teléfono blanco del piso segundo, el teléfono blanco. So we'll go ahead and just do a quick check right now. Just make sure, all right, because we don't want false information floating around out there, do we? Con prisa, porfa. Okay, so I'm gonna get this, and I'm gonna look it up right now. I'm gonna show you, the things that we do, some of the scientific tools that we have. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go into it. So these are, we have I have a whole Yomim folder, and I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different astronomical apps that are used just for various purposes. All right. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to listen. I think I have one open already. Let's see which one I was in last, and we'll get you the information about India real quick. We go to the actually go into New Moon, because I have an app that I did. I put this, may not. Then we have also My Moon Phase. Maybe this is it. My Moon Phase. All right. My Moon Phase. Let's see. My Moon Phase. Another one that we have out here. We have Lunar Solar Calendar. Okay, this is the one we want. Now we have places. Now the places I have Haliyal, India, Jerusalem, Dorbala, Turkey, where I live, Izmir, Turkey, which is 20 minutes away on the car from me. Greenwich, England, which is the UTC, the Universal Time, and in Zulu time in the military, and Greenwich Meridian time. And then we have Lagos, Nigeria, New York, and Tijuana, Mexico. So what I'll do, I'll go ahead and touch on Haliyal, India. All right, so we'll go ahead and touch that. All right, now Haliyal, India, it tells you here, Haliyal, it tells you that the next new moon, you see that? You can see that? Is that clear? Pretty clear? See if I can turn it sideways, get it a little bigger. No, okay. See, it says moon. Okay, so the next new moon, Monday, 28th October 2019 at 09:10 a.m. So at 09:10 a.m. So now, if something happens on the 28th in the morning, when did that day start? It started on the 27th at sunset. So yes, India also, we're all on the same calendar for this month, right? And then we have it for, like I said, I had to program these cities in, and for some of the cities I had to put in, there's a place where you add a city, but if the city's not there, you can put in coordinates. And as you can see, I had coordinates that I had to put in. That's what I'm saying, all right? We take this job very seriously, man. I had to go in and find the coordinates for a particular city in India, and you wanna know what city it is, you plug that in. 15 degrees, 19 minutes, and 46.99 seconds degrees north, all right, degrees north, which is gonna be on the east-west axis, but going north away from the equator. So it's a place that's rather hot. And then we have 74 degrees, 45 minutes, and 52.00 minutes east, which is east of the Greenwich Meridian, which is 0. So it's like a third of the world away, all right, from the Greenwich Meridian. So we knew it's 74 degrees, so it's gonna be about 5.5 time zones away. Because remember, at 15 degrees is how you divide the time zones, and it's 24, and 15 times 24 is gonna give you 360 degrees, all right? And even the cameramen are learning today, right? The cameramen are learning. All right, so that's why, you know, I just wanna, you know, I wanna thank Yahweh, thank the Most High, because, you know, a lot of y'all go out and you're looking for people, but we have, the Most High blessed me with my own sons and daughters that are gonna grow up to be, you know, students and teachers and observers of Torah in the name of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach to help other Israelites. This is the only lifestyle they've ever known, all right? And the Most High has given them a spirit to want to try to do the right thing most of the time, which is more than we can say for a lot of, you know, people, young people these days. So anyway, I had to put in these special coordinates, all right? And then we had to link that up with the city. Now, if you look on here, okay, here's Haliyal, India. So that's, you know, that's what we had to do. All right, so you have all these cities, and it tells you this, when is the sun gonna set in these different cities. But then when the sun sets, you gotta look at whether it's the civil sunset or twilight, whether it's the nautical twilight, or whether it's the astronomical twilight, and what's the difference, and how do they relate to the biblical construct of evening and time. You see that? So now for India, we all on the same page. So from India all the way over, all right, to New York, all the way over to California, rather, we're gonna be observing the holy day, the new moon, on the same calendar date, which is the 27th to the 27th to the 28th. All right, so we all on the same page. So I talked to the people in India earlier this morning and said, hey, you got the new moon coming up, so that means that you ain't supposed to do no buying, no selling, when it starts tonight, right? All right, so we're in it right now. So I told her that means you can't open your shop. You can't go to your job. You can't do any business, no buying, no selling, no school from the 27th at night until the 28th at night. All right, so that's the information. 27th to the 28th for everybody on the globe, and that's That's why we called it, what is it called? The global, that's why we called it the global 8th month, because you're gonna have times when we don't observe it on the same date. All right, so may Yahweh be with you, and then Yahweh Shai, Hamashiach. That's it. Hopefully next time we can have a shorter presentation. Doesn't take up a whole bunch of your time. All right, so may Yahweh be with you, and then Yahweh Shai, Hamashiach. That's all I can really, that's all we can go into right now. There's nothing else that we can really, that we even need to go into. So everybody's clear, you know, you see the information, you see the process that we go through to get it, you see a glimpse into it. The process that we use to go and get the information from resources that are out there. And then we have to, you know, go through it with a fine-tooth comb again and match everything up. And we're doing it because we're a global office. Because I'm also the elder that's over the diaspora and the House of Israel and diplomacy. So we have to consider and think about all Israelites across the whole globe that we have and have had personal contact and communication with. I've had personal contact and communication with the brothers in India, and I've had personal contact and communication with the brothers in Los Angeles and the brothers in San Diego and Los Angeles. So we have to look at that whole global arrangement of Israelites in the diaspora and make sure that everybody has the right information to worship Yahweh in spirit and in truth without error from a reliable and credible source, which is the Mashara Yasha'Allah Office of Calendar. Stop being rebels against your government. Follow what the government is setting up, particularly in terms of worshiping in these dates, because it's very important, because your spirit will become defiled, your spirit will become subject to sin, and your spirit will become distant to the Most High because you're profaning His holy days, and you might not even understand or realize that you're doing it. All right, so that's why you stick with the information we're giving you. All right, so did we have any type of questions or comments that anybody wanted to express during the broadcast, since we've been broadcasting?
From Marakadi, Yehuda, Yasha'Allah, Shalom Zakwan.
Shalom Marakad, hallelujah.
From Trina Smith, Shalom Elder.
Shalom Trina Smith, hallelujah, all praise to the Most High.
From Mike Boy King, love this.
Mike Boy King, shalom.
Also from Mike Boy King, very good, would like to have some of your notes.
Okay.
Also from Mike Boy King, what site is that?
Oh no, it's not a site, it's an app, okay? It's an app, Mike Boy King. It's an app that's called Lunar Soul Cal, which means Lunar Solar Calendar, which means it's like an ephemeris, but it doesn't give you the constellations. It tells you the position of the sun and the moon as they interact and relate to the earth on particular days, and it tells you about the phases. So it's Lunar Soul Cal, and let me show you how the app look, man. So this is the app right here. All right, I'm sorry, not that one. Lunar Soul Cal. But you know what? You can't, when I have these, that's the app right there. What I do, I cross-reference these apps. And I run everything back to the U.S. Naval Observatory that uses scientific methodology developed by, I'm gonna say something to you, and then people are gonna be like, but watch this. Developed by the Jet Propulsion Laboratory at NASA. And people gonna say, well, NASA, that's fake. And okay, you might have your thoughts about NASA, but the science of the math doesn't lie, and the proof of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory at NASA is the fact that every time you get your behind on an airplane, you trust in the information from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. It's the laboratory that deals with the propulsion or the flying of airplanes and jets, all right? So when it comes to that, they're very accurate. Other stuff, you can give or take or got your own opinion on that or whatever, all right? So you have to cross-reference a lot of your data. And a lot of stuff, they have the best scientific programs and computers and processes to get accurate information. Because as you saw on one of our things, not this one, but on sometimes you can be 4 minutes off. All right, your sunset could be 4 minutes away from when the new moon event happens. So you got to determine whether you're going to do it on that sunset or on the previous sunset. All right, so you got to be very detailed about the time that these things happen. So that's why I said a lot of stuff gets referred back to the U.S. Naval Observatory. Why Naval Observatory? Because when you're out on the ocean, you don't have no noise pollution. You have no pollution from lights or anything. It's just black skies. And you can see the sun, and you can see the moon and the constellations with clarity. Anything else from?
From Israelite King Henry, Selah. It's
Selah Shalom.
Yahweh Bashem Yahushai.
You said, what'd you say?
There's this word, I think it's like a shortened word. It's spelled APTTMH.
All praise to the Most High. Okay.
Yahweh Bashem Yahushai.
Kal halal Yahweh, Yahweh Shemel Shabrak.
And then there's one more thing from Mike Boy King. It says, I have only one question. Please inbox me.
Okay. Or you can just inbox me the question too also, Mike Boy King, and I'll answer it right when we get off the broadcast. I'll look for it. Right? You got anybody on there say anything yet? Okay, what we got?
Kafar Bani Yashala. Why don't we observe Shabbats and new moons according to Jerusalem time?
Well, Kathar Shalom Lakag, I'm glad you're here with us, man. You're a very adept, student, learner, teacher in different areas, man. I applaud you. So now, why don't we observe according to Jerusalem time? Because evening and morning are relative to where you are. It's not going to be evening and morning everywhere at the same time. So Jerusalem is what we can use as a base, but it has to be evening in order for us to observe the Sabbath. So if I'm in Jerusalem, okay, if I'm in Jerusalem and the Sabbath just started, if I go 2 hours away from Jerusalem going toward the west, okay, 2 time zones, 30 degrees away, it may not be the same, it may not be sunset yet, huh? So I have to wait for my time zone to come into that darkness. I got to be in the darkness to observe these different days. It has to be in the darkness because it's happening in the sky. So, we can have a universal marker, based on what's happening in Jerusalem, but then you have to process, your time, because if you do everything according to Jerusalem, then you're going to be awake and why stop there? You see that? The Most High never said that. Why not do everything according to Jerusalem? Which means that when it's 7 a.m. in Jerusalem and it's 12 midnight or 11 in Kansas City or St. Louis, it's 11 midnight. Kansas City, St. Louis, in Missouri, it's 11 p.m. and then it's 6 a.m., 7 a.m. in Jerusalem. Everybody's getting up. I mean, you're supposed to be getting up, but that's not realistic because the world functions on sunlight. The movement of everything is on sunlight. Everything is operating on sunlight. That means that you're gardening, okay? You're cooking, all right? So when you're putting your sheep away in Jerusalem at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., you putting your sheep away. That means that when it's 11, 12 p.m. in Missouri, you should be putting your sheep away too if you're going to follow Jerusalem. But the animals, the biological cycle, the biological rhythm is in tune with the moon, the sun, and the earth. All right, the moon, the sun, and the earth, and then you and nature. All right, the birds are chirping. So nature itself teaches you that you have to adjust for your time zone where you are. Nocturnal animals, all right, and nocturnal orchids, they don't function, the same in the daylight. So everything has to be done evening and morning with the first day, all right? So when the evening comes for us, wherever we are, that's what we observe it. Now, Jerusalem is marking the spot. Sabbath is here on so-called Friday night. So now, when you go back, I'm going to be observing it a few hours before you, all right? Because I'm ahead of you. I'm 7 time zones or 8 time zones away from you. So when I'm observing the Sabbath, like Sabbath, this holy day for us started, around, I think 7, maybe 7:58, 7:59, something like that. Did you look it up? All right, so 7 something, which means that for you, it was like 11 a.m. So you was, you getting started. Me, we winding down now. We're gonna eat, discuss the new Chaadash a little bit, and then rest. You see? So everything has to be done to where you are. I hope that answer the question, you think?
Said Aman the water.
Oh, hallelujah, ayandabar. So Genesis shows you, man, like evening and morning. So that's the starting point, evening and morning. So if it's not evening where you are, you can't observe it, all right? So it says 6 days shall you do X, Y, Z. 6 days you do X, Y, Z, all right? So you're gonna be on a different schedule with everything you're doing because your days are gonna be, your days are gonna be at noontime or something when Jerusalem is ending the day. So on a new day, you still in the afternoon, all right? Anything else, any other questions on there? I got you. Okay, what's the question?
From Mike Boy King, he said, my only question you just answered, it had to do with Jerusalem time and its new moon.
Okay, Qatar Yada. Ain't supposed to be, ain't your name supposed to be, it's Qatar Yada, right? All right. Because now, the Most High said, remember the Sabbath and observe it through all of our habitation. But remember, the days start in darkness because Koshek, all right, Koshek was the first part of the time. Okay. So when we look in the book of Bereshit, Koshek or Kashak is the first phase of time that the Most High records. Then he said that there be light. And then he said the evening, which is Irab, has 3 phases of it. And the morning, okay, which is Bakwar, which is the Awar, or the order, all right? So those were the first days. But it started with Kashak, the darkness. And then after that, we had the order, okay? We had the light. But it starts with the Koshek, the Kashak. It starts with the, no matter where you are in the world. Nighttime comes, everybody's biological clock rhythm starts to wind down, man. And that's why the evening, I'm going to this real quick, but then I'm gonna stop. And I like this, and then we'll be finished for today. This is what evening means in Hebrew. Somebody try to give me another dry erase, please. This one is dry. So this says, can you see this pretty good?
I feel.
Let's try this one. Okay. It's a little better, but it ain't no blue ribbon winner. Is that better? Alright, so this is E or I rob. So it says I rob. So now this means the eye of your body or of a creature. This is Ra'ash, which means head. This means Bayath, which means house. So evening time literally means I had house. All across the world, this is what this word is the same. This word means. So when we begin the day in the evening, it's the time of the day when we had house. All right? Head house meaning what? It's darkness coming on. You want to go to a place where you have, a place where you have safety. A place where you have a place where you have safety, a place where you have protection, a place where you have some place to sleep, some place to eat. I had house. So that shows you how evening is the same across the globe. All right, I had house. All right, so that's about it. Any more questions or comments on there?
From Prince Malak Aparium, the feast we can celebrate it according to the moon in whatever land we in.
Can, exactly, hallelujah. De seguro, ya tú sabes. Si la fiesta se puede celebrar según la tierra, donde sea, pero según el tiempo y según las condiciones las condiciones del ambiente, las condiciones del oscuro, de la luz, donde se encuentra en el tiempo cuando llega la celebración en la fecha. Pero para empezar el día o para empezar la celebración, para empezar con la fiesta, tiene que tener como oscuro, como la tarde, el fin de tarde y el último fin de tarde, como el último de la tarde se llama la noche. Okay, y empezamos todo en la noche, porque hay un poco de tiempo hasta que es muy tarde y después cuando es tarde nosotros nos descansamos después. Y cuando levantamos todavía estamos en el mismo día natural, el mismo día hebreo, porque recuerda que como la tarde y la mañana era todo el mismo día. Pero también la mañana, ¿okay? La mañana o el día fue el segundo parte del día con la luz y el día fue dos partes de tarde y mañana juntos también hay dos definiciones de día, ¿ok? Cool? Everything?
Then he says, he quotes Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 16.
Mm-hmm.
He says, according to Torah, we must appear at Jerusalem for these feasts, just like Acts 2.
We should appear at Jerusalem. There was a time period in history when, especially going after the Bar Kokhba rebellion, which was approximately 135 AD, approximately 100 years after Yahushua HaMashiach, when they told us that we couldn't come to Jerusalem anymore to keep the feast. Right? They said we couldn't come to Jerusalem anymore to keep the feast because of the rebellion that took place. And it was called the Bar Kokhba Rebellion, right? So with that Bar Kokhba, so again, we're talking about the Bar Kokhba Rebellion. So with that Bar Kokhba Rebellion, I'm trying to make sure it was 135. Bar Kokhba Rebellion. 132 to 136 in the Common Era, all right, which is AD. So that's when, during that time period, they said, y'all can't come back to Jerusalem. So you couldn't go to Jerusalem. And in these captivities, doing your best to get to these places is what you have to do. All right, what you have to do, you have to try to get back to Jerusalem, which is the proper Jerusalem, in the general traditional area, not down south at Tel Arad, which means the mountain of Arad, which means the hill of Arad. So we have to go to Jerusalem for these holy days. And when you go there, you can go there silently, you can go there quietly, you don't have to let anybody know, hey, I went there for these holy days. I mean, you may be there when the same time somebody else is there, but you might just want to be there at Jerusalem to keep that day. You might not want to make a public announcement about it, okay? But yeah, you're correct, Doc. Anything else?
And he says, count the water.
Hallelujah. I am the bar.
And then Mike Boy King says, on Passover, we must have a full moon.
On Passover, we must have the 14th to the 15th day. All right? It's the middle of the month. It's a full moon. So generally speaking, and we will do a class on that a little later, but if you look at the series about time that we did on YouTube, roughly when Passover happens, all right, it starts in Aries, the first constellation, and then when it comes around when the month starts is in the first constellation, and then when Passover comes around, the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, you're gonna be in the seventh constellation, all right, 180 degrees away from each other. So that's really what you're looking for also. In addition to the moon being white, fully white, you're looking for it to be in the seventh constellation, all right? Then that's going into Ecclesiastes when it talks about the Most High made everything, one thing against another. So you have everything in opposites and polarity, which just takes us back to Genesis that we see from the very first syllable of Genesis. We see contrast and we see polarity, okay? Anything else?
From Audrey Mitchell, Shalom family.
Oh, Shalom, Audrey. All right, Shalom. Give my regards to Big Harv over there. All right, hallelujah. Anything else?
No.
Anything else, Amadi? You got something?
No.
All right. All right, so did you have anything to say? Okay. All right, so, King Zayathan, do you have anything to say? All right, so that's it. So, yeah, but I can come here, how about you, Shai? Shalom Lekam, hallelujah. All praise to Yahweh, Shema Mashiach, Yahweh Shai.